Oh, I didn't see you there. Welcome to the channel. My name is Agent Espo, and today we're talking about an iconic AR-15 that I have wanted to build ever since I started my channel, and I've been working on this particular rifle now for months. So without further ado, I gladly present you the Call of Duty Black Ops Commando.
Hey kid, put that out. Enemy patrol's gonna be here any minute.
Woods, good to see you.
I told you don't call me that anymore. Copyright reasons. The name's Sergeant Forrest.
Sorry, Sergeant Forrest.
They're inbound. I'm gonna be on Overwatch. Stay on comms.
RCXD ready for launch.
Đến lựu đạn xuất động lên. Đến lựu đạn bắn. Tao đây. Đến lựu đạn chính. Lựu đạn tay ta. Lựu đạn tay ta. Đến đây đây.
James C. Burns, Sergeant Frank Woods, Call of Duty. A few other things. And you are watching Agent Espo. Talk about the gun that started it all. The one, the only, the Commando from Black Ops 1. We all know how that turned out. Woods out.
Activision has committed a many number of atrocities, but among their most severe is not rehiring James C. Burns to voice Woods in the Black Ops reboot games.
I'm a damn onion, Mason. You should know that.
Today we're talking about the original Call of Duty Black Ops, and I think that the release of Black Ops 6 is kind of a fitting time that we can go back and visit our childhood and a game that many of us love to play and, love to talk a lot of smack to each other, to put it lightly, and make some very interesting looking emblems. Call of Duty Black Ops was one of my favorite games. I was in 7th grade when it came out. Wager matches or just getting on with your friends from school, getting off school, and instead of doing your homework, going to play Call of Duty. It's a great memory that I have and many of you have, so it was inevitable for me to come and to clone the Black Ops Commando. This is a very iconic weapon, and it's a very unique one as well. So I'm very happy to bring you guys this video because I think that this is going to be a unique kind of build and unlike anything you guys have seen before. Now, before I talk about the actual build itself, I want to talk a little bit about Black Ops the game and some of the anachronisms and historical inaccuracies that are present pretty much throughout the entire thing. There are way more things that are inaccurate about the game than are accurate. So I'll touch on that real briefly before we jump into that build. So I was watching a video, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it's called All the Historical Inaccuracies with Call of Duty Black Ops, or Everything Wrong with Black Ops, something like that. And basically the guy goes through every single campaign mission and he talks about every historical inaccuracy. And as I watched that video, I discovered that many of the uniforms, vehicles, weapons as we know, are very anachronistic, and they're about 10 to 20, in some cases even 40 years too early. The game takes place between, I think, 1961 to 1968, the game takes place, and there are guns and optics, gear, camouflage, all this stuff appearing that is just way too early. So as the video goes on, he comes to the conclusion, and it's one that I agree with, that the game was originally supposed to take place during the 1980s. Now I think this is supported not only by the, for example, Russian camouflage that is developed in the 70s or 80s, but many of the guns, the MP5K, AK-74, G11, the FAMAS, and the FAMAS version that's in Black Ops is like 40 years too early. It kind of points to the game being set in the 80s. Now, I was thinking about the optics in the game, right? Such as this one, the Elbit Falcon. And this is in the game, as well as the Aimpoint Electronic Mark III. Both of those optics came out in the early 80s, and then the ACOG in the game is actually a 4 times old Colt scope. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I kind of wanted to share that before we jump into the build. It kind of puts a new perspective on why things were so anachronistic and why everything was so wrong. Well, originally it seems like they developed it for the 80s, but you know, the developers or the studio said, hey, we got to push this back to the 60s, and that's what they ended up doing. So pretty fun little thing to talk about, but let's go ahead and dive into the build itself.
You see that gun? We're gonna clone it.
So let's talk about the actual part that you guys care about. That's gonna be the build itself, how I cloned it, how you can clone it, and what makes this different from just like a normal M4. Why it's wrong and why it's unique, you know what I mean? So starting at the muzzle, this is a harbinger or harbinger, if you will, muzzle device. This is a muzzle projector. I got this from, I forget what website I got it from. Kind of a strange looking muzzle device. The reason for that is if you look at the one in game, IMFDB calls it an A1 or an A2 bird cage, but it's not. If you actually look at photos, the whole thing around is closed off. There are no slots cut like there would be for a normal bird cage. It's also a little bit like long and goofy as well. So you could go with like a BCM A2X. I did not do that. I went with I wanted to go for a more accurate looking one, so I got the completely closed muzzle device. Alternatively, I think what I may do in the future is take a moderator and cut that down to an A1 birdcage length and then stick that on there, because that probably look a little bit better. But that's what we're working with up front. Of course, the real life XM177s would have had a moderator on them, at least the E2s. From what I kind of read, the reason that the moderators were put on was to help the reliability of the rifle, and then they extended that barrel to 11.5 inches as well. So that brings us to the barrel. The barrel is an 11.5. I think the barrel that I got, this is a Brownells, is a little bit thicker than an actual like pencil barrel. You would need a pencil barrel profile to get this a little bit more correct. But with that being said, 11.5 is the correct barrel length for a Commando, and you can pretty much visibly see that in game. So let's talk about the handguards. Now the handguards are a hard thing to kind of get correct in real life, because if you look at the ones in game, the seam for the handguard, you know, typically on these clamshell, the seam is on the side. In the game, it's right up top, and then the ribbed portion of the handguard just continues around the entire time, and there's no flat portion here with the holes. That just doesn't exist. It's seam, and then it's just completely ribbed sides. So you essentially have to additive manufacture something like that, because nobody makes a handguard like that, right? A friend of mine, Matt, he made me some handguards that have these straight lines but no holes. I didn't throw those on there because the plastic is not going to last under heat. So I opted for a couple of H&R kind of shiny handguards and throw those on there. So that's kind of a part that's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard to mimic that from the game, because the game is so wrong. It's hard to mimic that in real life.
We have to talk about the sponsor for this video, Hammy of HammyPrints.com. You can go check out his stuff if you're looking for kill flashes, lens covers, a way to mount a gun to a wall. Then go check out Hammy. He also makes a Car 15 cheek riser that I'll be using here very soon in a future video. He's a good friend of mine and he makes a lot of good stuff. So go please check him out. Use code ESPO for 10% off.
Next is the portion of the receiver that I'm the most excited about. It's what makes the Commando from Black Ops, and that's going to be the upper receiver. So I have seen people call it a chopped carry handle. I've seen people call it a flat top. It is neither of those things, because a flat top would have Picatinny rail on top. The version in game does not have pick rail. It is completely smooth. It's not a flat top, it's a top that's flat, so to speak. So in order to mimic that in game, what we've done is Matt, once again, did a little bit of additive manufacturing and made me a rail cover to actually cover up the Picatinny rail. Now you may ask, well, why didn't you just chop a carry handle, since that would be a little more historically accurate to maybe what the game was doing? The reason I did not chop a carry handle, I had thought about it at one point. A chopped carry handle, if you look at the receiver of an A1, it's much thinner than Picatinny rail. Now, if you look at the screenshots in game, the flat portion seems to be as wide as a flat top receiver without having any of the Picatinny slots cut. So it's kind of like a flat top that hasn't had its Picatinny rail installed yet, or it hasn't been machined out. That's kind of how it looks. The Troy rear, if you look at the game, it kind of bolts on and just straddles the side of it. So that's what we opted to do here. I think that this looked the best. Now, as far as the right side of the gun, the game is based off of a Gal 5A/A. And that's an Air Force gun, right? It's a little 11.5 Air Force gun. So the side in game is completely smooth. There's neither a brass deflector nor a forward assist. So I set out to the market and I said, okay, I need to find myself a Picatinny flat top rail that has no brass deflector and no forward assist. This is a very challenging thing to try and find, because nobody makes a flat top pick rail with no brass deflector and no forward assist. So I was like, okay, well maybe I should chop something to try and get that Black Ops look right. What I ended up doing is I heard about something called Colt SMG. Colt SMG uppers have the exact appearance that I need. Flat top, Picatinny rail, no brass deflector, no forward assist. Problem is that they're kind of hard to find and they don't have a hole drilled for the gas tube, so you pretty much have to drill that out or get somebody to do it, right? Probably wouldn't be that hard, but that's just another obstacle to the build. So what I ended up doing was taking a slick side, so to speak, upper, which was an upper without a forward assist, but it did have a brass deflector, and then using a Dremel to just slowly sculpt away that brass deflector until I ramped this portion up by the dust cover the same way that an A1 looks. I feel like I could not do this again because it was just the right place at the right time. I did it, you know, over several hours, over a few weeks. You know, it'd be an hour here or there. I'd go out and I'd do it. But eventually I got it to a point where it's perfect and you can't really even tell, maybe you can tell a little bit, but you can't really tell that there was a full-blown brass deflector here. And to me, this makes the Commando, it really makes the vibe, right? It makes it look, it gives it that retro look, but also being flat top. I think it's perfect. Of course, the rear sight is going to be a Troy rear sight. Now, the one in game, I think is a Troy micro rear, just because the way that this sits, it looks a little bit higher compared to how it is in game. The problem is if I got a micro sight, then it would sit too low and I wouldn't be able to see my front sight. I'd have to like aim the gun down, I think, to see it. Whatever. It's flipped backwards as well, which is kind of funny, but that's how they had it in game. On not only this gun, but several other guns as well. The lower is a lot less interesting, and it's probably a little bit incorrect. Could be a little bit better. I probably could go with like an A1, maybe even a partial fence would be maybe a little more correct. I just went with a, you know, just a modern lower, and then a Car 15 stock. Kind of hard to tell if they're using a metal one or a plastic one. So I just have this plastic one, threw that on there. Of course, historically accurate would be aluminum one, so I don't have one of those, but if I do get one, I'll probably throw one on here and just make it look a little bit even better. And then down beneath, probably one of the most important parts and probably an overlooked part is gonna be the 25 round magazines. You can do the jungle mag thing, you can do the 45 round mag, which looks like a 30 rounder in the game, but the 25 round mag is what they're using in game, and it's made evident by looking at the icon for the Commando. When you go to pick it up, press X to pick up, the Commando, it looks like this. It's got the silhouette of a 25 round magazine in there, so that's what we got there, and that's pretty much the build.
What's the matter with you?
If you guys are enjoying this video so far, go ahead and like and subscribe because it helps me out, and interacting, leaving a comment will help tell YouTube that my video is good and that other people need to see it. So go ahead and please do that. Let's talk about this optic for a second. The Elbit Falcon Mark 1. This is a very rare red dot, and it is what the red dot in Black Ops is based off of. I said this earlier in the video that the aim-point electronic Mark III and the Elbit were developed in the early 80s, and why I think Black Ops takes place in the early 80s, blah, blah, blah. We already went through that. So I want to talk about this optic. So originally this was made to mount to the front barrel of a Galil. There is very little information about this optic because it is so rare in the United States. The only guy who has talked about it at all is Jeff Gerwich. He has a great video on both the Elbit, the Mark 1 and the Mark II. Mark 1 was issued to the IDF, and the Mark II was kind of a commercial scope. So one of the biggest problems I ran into with this red dot is the fact that, well, one thing, you know, it's like way bigger than it actually is in Call of Duty Black Ops, but since it mounts to a Galil, you know, this is clearly not that. It doesn't have a Picatinny rail mount. So you basically have to invent one. Now there's a company out there called Barnes Precision Machining, and they make a plate that you can, basically, you know, you put a plate under it, screw that in, and then you take a couple of like, I think they're like aim point mounts, and then you stick it under that, and then you can actually mount it to Picatinny rail. But until that, you pretty much have to make something yourself. The Mark 1 did have some pick rails, and they even had some gooseneck mounts for ARs, but since it was originally developed for that Galil, you're not going to really see those Picatinny rails. They're very, very rare. I got this optic from Turkey. You know, it had to be imported. I paid about 400 bucks for it. It's a very cool red dot, and I want to get this thing mounted because it's that red dot from Call of Duty. It is awesome. Glass is a little bit blue. That's kind of a thing from early optics. They're very blue and red, and this thing kind of reflects a lot, but it is a very cool, nostalgic optic, and it's worth mentioning, and I might do a whole video on it because it is so rare. I just have to like reverse engineer what's going on with this optic and then bring the information to you guys, but it is very cool, and I plan on mounting this. I think I'm gonna just keep this on this gun because it just looks so good. So as far as a mount goes, I'm using a plastic base to attach to the Picatinny, and then I'm using command strips, duct tape, and super glue to keep the optic on top. It slides, and it even fell off during the video initially when the command strips just weren't working, so it's very jank right now, but I will be finding and seeking a permanent solution to it so I can mount this thing, and not only mount it on this gun but other guns as well. If I do get a Galil, I would love to mount this the Black Ops way, not the way that the IDF did it. Now, if you're interested in wearing a shirt like this, which is a custom design, go to agentspo.com and you can buy some merch. I have some stuff there that we make. We kind of make it. We have some stuff that we sell there that's a really good time and kind of funny too, if I do say so myself. Additionally, we have a Patreon that you can support if you are able to. I know times are tough right now, but if you can leave a tip, go ahead and do so if you want, all right? So thanks. And go follow me on Instagram, agent_espo. I'm kind of shadow banned, but you know, who isn't on Instagram, right? So go check me out and we'll have fun together. I also have a second channel called The Agency Debrief. Now, it's kind of the neglected redheaded stepchild at this time because I don't do a lot, but we're going to start ramping up operations over there. So get in early on that and go check it out. So thank you for watching the video. It's been many months in the making because I was waiting on parts, or you know, it took me 3 months. It was like 97 days for the Form 1 lower to come back, which is very cringe, but such is life, I guess. But I appreciate you guys watching, sticking around to the end, so I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Friendly RCXD ready for deployment. Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. This thing kind of sucks. So I try to drive it in the grass. It doesn't do anything. It's kind of cool though because there's like a little camera. If you see, can we get a little shot of the camera? I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. You can like see it.
Yeah, not at all.
You can't see it at all.
You can't see it at all.
It's also like a little
dark over here.
It's super crusty, so I need to like lick my fingers.
There's a car coming. Grab it. Grab it. It's turned. We're good. We're good. It's turned. It's turned.
There's no firearms on the street. I have no firearms at all. See, I tried to drive this thing in the gravel. It doesn't got the torque. Let's back it up. Back it up a little bit. Yeah, it's stuck.
Yeah, what's the point of having these off-road tires if they suck?
It's because they weren't built for the flat range, unfortunately. Next time.